Welcome to the Falcons Fanatic Podcast, your dirty birds every weekend. And we are back for another Falcons Fanatic Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Lucky Roberts. And today we're talking about the Vikings 31-28 victory over the Atlanta Falcons at home for the Falcons. And it was a pretty tough game, to say the least. The Falcons are now second in the NFC South. New Orleans winning today. And it puts a real damper on the day, for sure, as the Falcons have dropped now 5 of their last 7, 3 of their last 4, and continue to fall down these standings. The big news coming out of this week was Taylor Heinicke was going to take the starting job over Desmond Ridder. And, I think he performed exactly as you thought he would. He had a pretty inspiring performance last week where he really picked it up. But it was just not really enough for, this Falcons team to beat Minnesota. He had a pretty good showing against the Titans. And the Falcons almost took that one. They almost take this one. Only Joshua Doubs with a couple of key third down and fourth down conversions on a final drive that left the Falcons with not enough time to come back, as the Falcons now fall to 4-5. And you can sort of see the writing on the wall in this season upcoming. They have a game against the Arizona Cardinals next week. That is the most important game coming up for the Falcons. They have the Cardinals and then bye week, then the Saints. And so, if the Falcons are not 5-5 going into their bye week, I expect to see maybe some heads roll, as you would say. The hot seat is officially on Arthur Smith. He's been very, very disappointing. His play calling, especially in the red zone, it's very similar to what we saw from Dan Quinn in the red zone in those prime years for Dan Quinn and the Falcons, even of the last decade, just the prime years, and we just still can't seem to figure out the red zone. There was a play here, Falcons got 2 turnovers, and coming up both of them, we could only get field goals. Falcons offense, really did not put themselves in a position where they should be winning this game. Taylor Heinicke was 21 for 38 with 268, a touchdown and interception. It's what you expect from him. It's what you would expected from Desmond Ridder if you put him in this game. Very similar to Desmond Ridder's usual score boxes. The rushing attack was fine. It was very meh. Bijan Robinson with 11 carries, 51 yards. Tyler Algier, 12 carries, 40 yards, and a touchdown. Tyler Algier on the final drive that the Falcons had with, any time really, he really carried the Falcons down the field with some big runs, big powerful runs, and stuff you would see from him last season. But Tyler Algier this year has really struggled, and he's finally found something this game, capping it off with a touchdown run. But you look, Bijan still a lot more effective, 5 yards a carry, but he's only getting 11 carries, and that's because we're down in most of this game. We have 38 throws, 28 runs, and if you're splitting the runs, those 28, you're only getting, your top 8 draft pick 11 touches of the football. And he's done the most with what he can. He has 51 yards in this game. If he has 20, that's 100 yards. If he does that every single game, he's dominant. And I know you're saving his legs and you're saving Algier's legs, but it's just, I'd like to see him have an impact on these games. As you look at some of the receivers for the Falcons, Jonnu Smith leads the team. Once again, I think this is the 3rd week all year where Jonnu Smith has led us in receiving yards and receptions. He has 100 yards, a touchdown. Most of all those yards and the touchdown came on a 60-yard touchdown pass, little screen pass out to the flat, where he sort of was able to break it loose. But obviously we're without Drake London in this match, and you have Kyle Pitts here. He has 4 receptions, 56 yards, 4th overall pick. Kyle Pitts was, and you keep looking back. Drake London injured, doesn't play in this game, 8th overall pick. Kyle Pitts, 4th overall. I mean, imagine what you can have with a top 5 pick. What you would trade for a top 5 pick in the NFL draft. And then think about what you would trade for Kyle Pitts right now. And it's not similar. It's not close to being similar. I mean, the value, having a top 4 pick and then just it disintegrating in our palms, it's disappointing, and we're just not utilizing him, and we're not utilizing Bijan Robinson. We're not utilizing Drake London. And I know he's injured. There's nothing you can do about it. But even still, you've got Matt Collins. He had a couple of crossing routes. Van Jefferson we just traded for. He had one 14-yard catch. He had a penalty that really messed the Falcons up on a 4th down. Bijan Robinson catching 2 passes. Cordero catching 1. Yeah, just really, just a frustrating game, and it's been a season of frustrating games for the Falcons. If you look defensively, you have David Onyemata. He played pretty well. Nate Landman. David Onyemata is going to have to step up with the absence of Grady Jarrett, which was the second big piece of information to come from this week. It was a thing that happened last game, but this week in general, he's out for the season now. He's sort of, we're not going to have him back for the rest of the year, and it's going to be David Onyemata, and that's why, you see a sign of Kentavious Street, who had a fumble recovery in this game, sort of Joshua Dobbs dropping back, and it's 3rd down, he just tosses it to Kentavious Street. I mean, we'll take it. Falcons refused to capitalize on it. Just getting a field goal, I guess, is good enough, but still very, very frustrating. Could have had a lot more. And, that's the story of this year. So many wasted opportunities as the Falcons are now 4-5, New Orleans 5-4. And if you look at the points forward, points against, you would think, at least the last 2 weeks, Falcons are top of the division, and you think, they're better than the Saints. But you look at it now, and it doesn't seem close. The Saints with 195 points, 171 points against. Falcons with 190 points against, 170 points forward. And so you can sort of see the Saints pushing themselves. And the Falcons are still going to have a chance to win this division, especially with the easiest schedule coming up. But, we're going to have to win both of our Saints games. One of those is coming after the bye week, so we'll have a lot of time to get ourselves ready for it. But even still, just very, very tough game to watch. You've seen Arnold Ebiketie gets a sack, Calais Campbell getting a safety, Nate Landman and Onyemata getting sacks. It's not like we weren't pressuring Dobbs, but he just kept escaping and running out right, and he looked very, very good. And he's looked good for the Cardinals this year, but he's wearing a Vikings uniform. He just kept getting out of these Falcons' fingertips and getting those first downs. There was one, 18-yard touchdown run. He had one where he scampered out right. It just got the first down, which was able to get the Vikings a touchdown. That's a 4-point swing. That's the difference in this game, where instead of getting a touchdown instead of a field goal. And that just keeps on happening. The Falcons keep on, losing these tight ones, and they're winning the tight ones early on in the season. And maybe that's why you see us where we're at. Another very, very frustrating part was a Bijan Robinson fumble. He's had a couple of those this year. I'm not going to blame him too much, but he was running out left, had the ball in his hands. Everything seemed fine, and he sort of loosens his grip even. I don't even know what he was doing. It gets punched out, but it didn't seem like he was trying to hold on to the football. He loses it. It starts rolling, and it's picked up by, I think it was Kadarrell Hodge, on the outside, and he looks like he has it. Maybe it was Van Jefferson there too, and 2 Falcons surrounded the ball, and some Vikings taking him down, start jostling for possession, but it looks like the Falcons have it, and somehow the Falcons get out-wrestled for the football. Vikings get the ball, and that was a huge swing, and it didn't even look like it could have been possibly a fumble in the first place, but yet Bijan shows that he can do the unthinkable. Kadarius Hodge also had a very nice, 31-yard catch today where he did something similar to what he did yet last game against the Titans, where he catches it and he sort of gets stood up, but he doesn't get tackled, and then he just evades the grip of a defender, and he gets an extra 10, 20 yards, and you saw that there today on the 31-yard catch, Kadarius Hodge. Kyle Pitts, like I was talking about, Van Jefferson. Taylor Heinicke looked very Desmond Ridder-like. He had a bad interception on a dig where he just threw it sort of behind the receiver, and it was not really much anything anybody could have done. And it's just disappointment. And, as Falcons fans, I'm sure we're used to it, but it's tough to see. And I do think, Younghoe Koo had a really good game. And we kept calling him up in situations where it's like, man, we would have liked to have that first down. Man, that was an interesting play call. And so he's 4 for 4, two couple really long ones, 50-yarders, and he's knocking everything down. A beautiful season from Younghoe Koo so far. He's had a game winners like he always does in every single year. Clutch player. And we needed each one of these field goals, but we needed one more. But the Falcons cannot give us that satisfaction. Bradley Pinion here, he had a decent game. I'm not a huge fan of Pinion, but punters would be punters. Not much you can do about it. And it's just a game you would have liked to win, and a bunch of games in a row where would have liked to win them. Just looking at some team stats. The total yards are basically the same. You're looking at rushing. Vikings actually outrushed the Falcons. Falcons outpass the Vikings. And another place where the Falcons lost this game was in penalties. Vikings had 1 penalty for 4 yards. Falcons had 8 for 62. That's a huge 50-yard difference, and that's probably the difference in this game, as they had pretty similar yardage totals other than that. And both teams 2 turnovers. Very, very close match. It just comes down to those penalties that took us out of some points and not stopping the Vikings when we really should have. And that's going to be, your difference in this game. It was very, very unfortunate and frustrating to see. I don't really know where the Falcons go from here. It seems like we've sort of exhausted all of our options, and we've just sort of got to sit this one out, see how it goes for the rest of the year. But if we make the playoffs, cool, and Arthur Smith can keep his job. But I really am starting to sour on the idea of him staying in Atlanta long term. I mean, he's clearly not the answer, clearly not going to bring this Falcons team success. And I mean, people are also looking at Terry Fontenot, and they're wondering if he's the answer long term in the GM spot, because he's made some good signings and he's made a couple of good draft picks, but I mean, nothing to inspire you and nothing that anybody else could have done. And the way this team's handled the situation, I mean, treading water is just something that the Falcons have been doing forever. And if you got a GM and a head coach that are really good at treading water, as the Falcons do, what are you doing? I mean, I think I think Arthur Smith is a good coach in the fact that you're gonna get 7 wins with him as your head coach. He's a floor raiser, but he's a ceiling closer, a ceiling lowerer, because he's not using our talent in ways that really shows their talent. And sure, that's gonna catch people off guard or whatever, and it's gonna endear you to some players, but it's really stopping us from reaching that upper echelon. And when, your best players, especially if they're skilled players, can't be utilized, then, you're really not helping your QBs out, and you really see them start to falter. It's not, the best, and we'll see. I mean, I think Arthur Smith is going to get another year to have another quarterback in and get his feet under him, but it's a tough situation to be in for all parties, Arthur Blank included. But we'll see. Maybe this is just the rock bottom for the Atlanta Falcons, and maybe we'll go on an upswing. And I'm sure we will next week against Arizona. We'll be on the upswing, and if we win that game, we're 5-5, and maybe the Saints lose next week, and we're like, okay, we got this. We're convincing ourselves, and then we'll probably lose to the Saints, and that's how life goes. But it's disappointing, getting beaten by Joshua Dobbs, who showed up for his first game all week, first game all year. A big game for Hawkinson. Addison had a couple of clutch plays. Madison as well. And we just couldn't get them off the field. I mean, the Falcons are better than the Vikings, you think, especially when they don't have their quarterback. When you look at these rosters, and you've got no Kirk Cousins for the Vikings. Joshua Dobbs and Taylor Heinicke are very similar players, and it's just not how it went. And I'm not going to dwell on this game too much longer. I don't think that's in anybody's best interest. I think I'm going to leave you here. But before I do that, we'll go around and look around the league and some scores around the league. We'll look at those, and I'll wrap it up. So I'll see you right back in a sec. All right, and I am back to talk about some of the games around the league. The first one we have here, being NFL Germany Frankfurt games, as they like to call it. The Chiefs beat the Dolphins 21-14 off of a defensive touchdown was really the difference here. The Chiefs jumped out to an early 21-0 lead. The Dolphins fired back, scoring 14 of their own in the third, but it was not enough, and the Chiefs win another game to improve to 7-2. The Chiefs fall to 6-3. The Chiefs are 7-2. The Dolphins now 6-3, and it was a great performance. Not the best game, as you would have expected a high-scoring game, but the Chiefs continue to win these close ones. The Browns absolutely demolished the Cardinals 27-0. Exactly what you like to see, especially if you're a Falcons fan coming up, because we have the Falcons are playing the Cardinals very soon. 27-0 Browns, 5-3 now, dominating Cardinals 1-8, matching the Panthers on the same pace. Packers beat the Rams. They're now 3-5. Packers trying to salvage something out of the season. The Rams are going the opposite direction. They find themselves at 3-6 and are probably looking for a top pick, even though I think they traded it away. Commanders beat the Patriots in a very, very close nail-biter. Commanders pick off Mac Jones and they seal the win right at the end. It was, the Commanders have a better chance, and they just fought till the end and was able to sneak out a victory against the Patriots, who are now 2-7. 2-7 as well are the Bears, who lost to the Saints in a very close one, actually. A strip sack was with a winner for the Saints as they win 24-17. Touchdown right at the end in the fourth quarter to the Saints. The difference in this match, they were scoring at the exact same pace throughout the rest of the game, and the Saints now improve to 5-4. Bears 2-7, but not an impressive performance by the Saints to any imagination. The Ravens absolutely crushed the Seahawks 37-3. Great game by the Ravens. They are now 7-2 as well, matching the aforementioned Chiefs. They are 3-1 at home, and they absolutely demolished the Seahawks, who are 5-3 now. We're one of the best teams in the NFC, or so we thought. And the Ravens look really, really good this year, and led behind Lamar Jackson. If only the Falcons had an opportunity to sign Lamar Jackson. But of course we didn't. Let's be honest. But the Seahawks score 3 points. Disappointing loss. The Texans beat the Buccaneers in a very high-scoring game, 39-37. Texans edge it out in the end with a field goal. Tank Dell comes clutch at the end of that drive, and the Texans are now 4-4 behind a very great C.J. Stroud match for him. He's been really impressive, one of the best rookie quarterbacks in recent memory. Definitely the best this season, as the Buccaneers fall to 3-5 and just that much further behind in the NFC South. Three more matchups for you here. The Colts 27-13 victory over the Panthers. Colts now 4-5. Bryce Young sacked. Just nothing going. Just Panthers are done for. That's something to salvage maybe if you're a Falcons fan, something to revel in. The Raiders beat the Giants. Raiders with a new head coach after firing their old one. Josh Jacobs had 2 TDs in this first half. It was a very dominant performance by the Raiders with their new head coach, and the Giants, once again, 2-7. Their season is over. The Eagles, 8-1 now, best record in the league. Beat the Cowboys 28-23 in a very close game. This was one of the best games all day, and it was, snuck out in the last minutes by the Eagles, who continue, like the Chiefs, to just be the better team when the clock ends, not really the better team throughout the whole match. But that's good enough to get them the win. That's good enough for them to be 8-1 on the year as we wrap up the games of the day. So thanks for listening, everybody. I know it hasn't been as good as people would have liked to see. It happens in the NFL. We'll get them next game. 4:30 is the game against the Cardinals. Then we've got a bye week, some time to debrief about this season as we take on the Saints in a key matchup, a must-win matchup. And, after that game, I'm sure we'll be able to decipher what's going to happen with Arthur Smith and this team in the offseason. So that's the 3-week picture for the Falcons. Thanks for listening to a Falcons Fanatic podcast. I'm your host, as always, Lucky Roberts. Follow me on Twitter, do whatever you need to do. Thanks for listening, as always, and, get some sleep, get some happiness in your life, and I'll see you guys next week. All right, bye.